Okay, good morning, guys. Nice to see you. Welcome to everyone online as well. We're going to start with meditation. We're going to do the same thing as yesterday, where I'll do the chanting on the way in and on the way out, and then you do your own meditation. I suggest you do the loving kindness meditation. That's usually best in the morning, where you're starting with the breathing mindfulness first, then loving kindness, and then breathing mindfulness. Afterwards, I'm going to share this topic with you of practicing the path in the workplace, and then we'll go into this very short topic of the art of the friendly no, how to say no without saying no. We'll probably be done, well before even 11 o'clock. So enjoy your meditation. If you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. And then afterwards, I'll come out with the chanting. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Sama Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Bhoto Bhagavati อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you guys all here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. So we're finishing up this course this morning with just two short topics to really help you guys to kind of finish out this harmony and relationships course. This first topic I'm going to share with you is practicing the path in the workplace. If you were learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha and you were only practicing them in your personal life, you would never be able to experience enlightenment. You're going to need to be able to train your mind at all times during your day, including while you're in the workplace. But oftentimes in the workplace, there's people who aren't practicing these teachings, and you might find it very challenging to be able to apply these teachings in your day-to-day life at work. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to actually practice these teachings at work. And just like always, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions as we go. For those of you guys here, we have microphones so that people online can hear you. And then for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and unmute your microphone to ask any and all questions that you like. So firstly, the first thing you need to do in order to be able to practice the teachings in the workplace is you need to acquire wisdom. You guys have seen this, for those of you guys that have been in the course, throughout the course, that this is really the first bullet on all of these, right? Because without the wisdom of the path to enlightenment, you wouldn't be able to actually practice it. So remember, you're learning, examining, and investigating teachings. You're reflecting on them to verify if they're true or they're false. And then you're practicing his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And that's where you'll know what the truth is, and that this is the true natural laws. So you can acquire this wisdom, and that's what's going to help you to get to the point where your mind is awakened or enlightened. You're going to need to continue your meditation practice, your breathing mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation, and a well-developed practice of generosity. Oftentimes in the workplace, when there are certain tasks or certain projects that are coming up and there's a lot of deadlines and it's time to, get those deadlines met, oftentimes people, one of the first things they do is they start kind of shortcutting on the things that are actually helping their mind and developing their life. You might start not sleeping as much. You might not eat as well. You might not go to the gym. You might not do meditation, all these kinds of things. But those are all the things that are sustaining you and helping you to be able to make all those wise decisions. So when you have a lot of demands at work and you have a lot of priorities and you're making a lot of decisions, that's not the time to stop meditating and put your meditation practice on the back burner, because you need your mind to be performing really well because you're making so many decisions. In fact, when things slow down in your life and you don't have as many decisions to make, if you were kind of a little bit short on your meditation during that period of time, you'll be fine. But obviously you'd like to stay consistent with your meditation practice all the way through. But your meditation practice is impermanent. It's going to go up and down at different times in your life. But over the consistency of multiple years, if you're stringing together your meditation where you're consistently meditating, you'll make your way to enlightenment. But I just would like to encourage you that when things get really busy at work, don't skimp on your meditation, because that's when you actually really need your mind to be performing well, is when things are really busy at work. So you're going to need the breathing mindfulness meditation, because that's training your mind to cut off and let go, eliminate craving, desire, attachments. You're going to need loving kindness meditation, because that's going to help you to have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, your coworkers, your boss, your business partners, even if you interact with any of your competition or people like this, you're going to be interested in being loving and kind with those people through your intention, speech, and actions. And it's the meditation that's going to help you with that. And it's also helpful to practice generosity in the workplace too. You would like to do this equally, whereas if you work in a small company where there's just maybe 6 or 8 people, it would be unwise to bring back that milkshake for just one person, right? Because all the other people are going to get jealous, and they don't understand that that's coming from their own craving. They're going to associate that jealousy, that painful feeling, to you. And what they're going to tend to do is push you aside. They're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they're going to start putting pressure on you or expectations to do things in their way. And it's going to cause difficulties in your relationships. So if you're going to bring back a milkshake for your office of 6 coworkers, bring back one for everybody, or don't bring back any at all. Right? I actually learned this very early in life. When I was in 2nd grade, I had a teacher who one time I was chewing gum in her class, and she said, "David, are you chewing gum?" And I said, "Yep." She said, "Do you have a stick of gum for everybody?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, you need to spit out your gum then." She said, "If you have a stick of gum for everybody, you can chew gum in my class." And I thought to myself, perfect. The next day I went out and bought all this gum, and I brought gum in for every single person in the class. And she was truthful to her word. She let us chew the gum, right? And we chewed gum in her class, right? So you'd like to share with everybody, right? And if you work in a really large company of 300 people, you might not be able to bring back something for everybody. So that's where, like, if you're buying 20 bagels, you put them in the conference room, you send out an email to your entire office. You say, "Hey, everybody, I brought some bagels in this morning. There's 20 bagels in the office. Feel free to help yourself." And then now, if I'm the 21st person and I'm still writing that email and I'm delaying going to the conference room, and I walk in and there's no bagels for me, well, I can see that was my decision, that I continued to write that email instead of going to get my bagel, right? So this is a way that you can practice generosity in a large group of people and still treat everybody equally, because you'd like to treat everybody equally in your life. You're going to need to eliminate complacency in the workforce, because oftentimes we get complacent in a work situation. Say you're given a project on Monday and your boss says, "Hey, I need this done by Friday." And you look at that work and you're like, "I can do that in 3 hours," right? And you're like, "Wow, I've got all week to kind of coast all week long. And then maybe Friday morning, I'll kind of work on it, or Thursday afternoon, I'll work on it and get it done for Friday's deadline." Well, you don't know what's going to be happening throughout your week. Maybe Thursday rolls around and your car doesn't start and you can't get to work. Or Friday morning, something happens and you're sick or something like this. So instead of delaying and being complacent, what I would do if I was you is I'd go ahead and start doing that work on Monday right away, right? And if you get it done and turned in on Tuesday, hey, the boss looks at this and was like, "Wow, I thought I was going to take them all the way until Friday to get this done, and they've turned it in on Tuesday." Well, when the next promotion comes up or the next big project comes up, who do you think they're going to be thinking about for that? It's going to be you. right? So instead of being complacent and just coasting through work, go ahead and get that project done on Monday or Tuesday. And if you like to take a few hours after you get it done to do a little bit of rest and relaxation at work, okay, turn it in on Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning. But still, don't just delay and push it all the way to the end, because you don't know what's going to happen on Thursday or Friday that could potentially get in your way of completing the work. There's the right livelihood, which is what the Buddha teaches you. Ultimately, by the time you get to enlightenment, whatever job you're doing, it's not even going to feel like work. It's just going to feel like part of your life. You're doing this thing that you thoroughly enjoy, and it doesn't even feel like work. That, yeah, sure, you're collecting money and you're using this money in order to sustain your life, but you enjoy what you're doing so much it doesn't even feel like work. The Buddha teaches you how to not cause harm through your livelihood, because if you cause harm in the way that you sustain your life, that harm is going to come back to you. So he gives you various teachings about this. This is called the first fold of purification. I taught this on Monday as part of the Eightfold Path, where the Buddha teaches you to not have businesses and weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness, and poisons, because these 5 livelihoods are going to cause harm, and you're sustaining your life off of causing harm. And I taught you not to believe any of these teachings, and they're not rules and they're not commandments. He's helping you to be able to see this natural law of Gotama, of cause and effect, and how by making certain decisions, it's going to produce certain results. And I showed you how, like, say somebody was selling substances, right? And they're standing on the street corner selling substances. Well, that decision is going to lead to unwholesome results in your life, or unwholesome karma, because standing on the street corner, you can easily get beat up. You can get murdered, you can get robbed, you can get arrested, you can get addicted to these substances yourself. These are all the results of your decisions of choosing to stand on the street corner and sell drugs, because you're causing harm to the community. The community is getting addicted to this substance. They're robbing, they're stealing, they're selling their body to be able to bring you money, and this is not what you would like to base your livelihood on. But remember, this natural law of karma functions at a much higher level than human laws, because the country that I grew up in, the government's not going to arrest me for being a cashier at a liquor store, right? But if you understand the natural law of karma and what the Buddha is teaching you, that's very unwise, right? If I was a cashier at a liquor store, once again, those places get robbed, people get beat up, people get murdered in that situation. At the very least, you're going to be dealing with intoxicated people coming in to buy alcohol from time to time. So even though the government's not going to arrest you for it, that's a human law. Those laws are imperfect. The Buddha is teaching you the natural law of karma and showing you how to get to this peaceful life and this peaceful mind. And as long as you're having business in any of these, you won't be able to do that. Then he teaches you how to perform your livelihood, eliminating scheming, flattering, hinting, belittling, and pursuing gain with gain. Each one of these is to be able to help you get to the point where you can have success in your livelihood. So, for example, if I was the mayor of a town, I'm not causing any harm. I'm not doing any of these 5. But if I was scheming, if I was corrupt, if I was doing backhanded deals, eventually people are going to find out about that. And now when I'm 10 or 15 years into my career, people won't re-elect me for the position, and now I have difficulty sustaining my life. Flattery is like giving people insincere comments just to get people to buy things from you. If you've ever been in a store and you walked in and they were like, "Oh my gosh, that shirt looks wonderful on you. It really brings out the colors of your eyes. It accentuates the face. You're so beautiful. You know, I've got these earrings over here that would go really well with that shirt," right? They're just trying to get you all warmed up so that you'll come over here and I'll buy these earrings. And if you experience this, or if you actually do this in your livelihood, people are going to see through that, and they're not going to be interested in buying things from you, because people do business with people. They don't do business with businesses. They do business with people. And when they're interacting with you as a person, if they're having a beneficial exchange, if they're having a wonderful experience of interacting with you, they're going to be interested in repeating that, in doing business with you, because they do business with people. They don't do business with businesses. So you are a person that they're doing business with. And as you move from company to company to company, what you'll find is your clients will oftentimes follow you because they're interested in doing work with you and doing business with you, because you've built a wonderful relationship with them. So you're not interested in doing the flattery. What hinting is where you're not clear and concise in the way that you communicate at work. So if all of us were on a project team and we needed to go brief the boss about the work that we're doing, we like to be clear and concise and precise. We're not interested in hinting around, right? So this is going to help the boss to be able to understand what it is that we're doing, and we'll have more success that way. The Buddha teaches you not to have belittling, where you're degrading and diminishing your coworkers, your business partners, your customers, your competition, people like this. Sometimes people think the way to get ahead in business is to degrade and diminish their competition and push them down, but it actually makes you look bad and unfavorable in their eyes. And again, they're doing business with a person. They're not doing business with a business. So when they see that you're belittling and degrading your competition, your coworkers, your business partners, all these people, you're going to find it very difficult to be able to have a successful livelihood. So that's why the Buddha teaches you it's unwise to do that. And then what pursuing gain with gain is, this is where all you care about is the money. You don't care about the product or the service. All you care about is the money, and you're just showing up for the paycheck, and that's all you care about. Well, eventually that's going to wear off, and you're going to feel so mundane and so bored in this job. If you've ever gotten a job that had a really nice paycheck and you're like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that, and you just took the job for the money, well, after about 3 months, 6 months, a year, that's going to wear off. And now you're working in a livelihood that you really don't care about the product or service. All you cared about was the money, but that craving is going to wear away. And now you're going to like drag yourself to work. I don't know if you've ever had that kind of job where it felt like a dead end job and you're just dragging yourself to work each day just to collect this money. You're not going to have a sustainable way of creating peace and joy in your life. That's not what the Buddha's guiding you towards. He's guiding you towards this peaceful and joyful life that not only is your personal life going wonderful, but your professional life is too. So you're going to need to find some type of livelihood that you are very enthused about and that you thoroughly enjoy. I gave you guys the example of the mango and sticky rice. I don't know if you guys remember this, right? Like here in Thailand, there's probably somebody standing on the street corner over there selling mango and sticky rice, and they got the biggest smile on their face. They probably woke up this morning, went into their mango grove, picked each little mango, brushed it off, put it in their basket. They brought it to the market. They're sitting there slicing the mango, putting it over the hot rice, the sticky rice, pouring the nice warm coconut milk over it, and they're handing it to you with a big old smile on their face. And they're collecting the little 40 baht, right? But they can't imagine doing anything else other than serving you mango and sticky rice. They enjoy it so much that it doesn't even feel like work. So you need to find your mango and sticky rice. What's your mango and sticky rice? What is it that you're going to enjoy so thoroughly that you can't imagine doing anything else, that it doesn't even feel like work anymore? And if you're not in that job right now, like say you're in a job that you feel very miserable about, or you're in between jobs, then there's help for you. You can train your mind to get to the point where you're not experiencing that, because it's no fun dragging yourself to work each day. So this is what's called the first fold of purification, that when you get your work up to this level, then you're actually practicing the first fold. But there's a second fold of purification that the Buddha teaches you. It's in our book series in volume 12, chapter 14. You'll find it there. So if you'd like to look at that, you're more than welcome to. Again, it's volume 12, chapter 14. So if you're in between jobs or you're in a job that you don't particularly care for, you might decide to look at that chapter where you'll see the words of the Buddha, and you'll see words from me too that are helping you to be able to get to this point where you thoroughly enjoy the work that you're doing. Here's some other things, is keep in mind that your mind can only do one thing at a time. Sometimes in the workforce, people teach you to multitask. Your mind actually can't multitask. It's physically impossible. This wasn't a thing until the 1960s. In the 1960s, that's when computers came out. And computers can multitask because it's a machine, it's a device, it's got a CPU, it's got a processor, it's got multiple processors, right? That it can process multiple things, right? But the human mind can't. So in the 1960s, everyone was like, computers are multitasking. We should be able to too. What we're really doing if someone's trying to multitask is they're doing one thing for 3 to 5 seconds. They're rapidly cycling to another, and then they're cycling to another. It's like racing around a racetrack. And if you go to work every day and you're racing around the racetrack, when you get off work, you find it very difficult to relax. And you're probably stressed and have anxiety, and you're probably amped up. It's like a horse. If you go to a horse track and you watch horses race around a horse track, if you go to the barn, they're all hyped up, they're all amped up, right? It's the same thing with the human mind. It's if you're doing that all day long, where you're bouncing from task to task to task to task, at the end of your day, you're all hyped up and it's very difficult to calm down and actually rest and relax. So keep in mind that your mind can only do one thing at a time. So you're going to need to practice singleness of mind. This is part of the path to enlightenment. It's part of right concentration. That eighth step, or that eighth factor on the Eightfold Path, is practicing singleness of mind, where you're doing just one thing at a time. You like to do this not only in your personal life, but in your business life too. The way that I think about this is that if you just do one thing at a time, more and more your mind's going to come into this focus, right? So that if you're in a business meeting and your mind is thinking about the trip to Thailand that you're going to take in 6 months, and your mind's daydreaming, and your boss is talking, and all you hear is wonk, 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 because your mind's thinking about Thailand. You're not applying yourself at work, and you're not providing the most value so that you can actually advance your career. So when you're in that business meeting and you see your mind's wandering, you'd like to cut that off and come back and focus on whatever it is in the business meeting. It's kind of like if you had a piece of wood and you had a steel rod and you were grinding the steel rod back and forth on the wood. Initially, it's going to bounce around a lot. So right now, your mind might be bouncing around a lot. But over time, if you grind this steel rod back and forth enough, you're going to get a groove going in the wood. And even there, it's still going to pop out of that groove sometimes, because the groove isn't quite deep enough yet. But you'll notice that it's popped out and you'll bring it back. And then if you grind this steel rod back and forth enough, you're going to get a deeper and deeper groove. And eventually the groove is so deep, it won't ever pop out. Your mind's just always going to be focused. So if you practice this singleness of mind, where anytime you see your mind wandering and it's not focusing on a particular thing, you can bring your mind back. And you might even be practicing that when you're here in the class, when someone's talking, right? As someone's talking and I'm teaching, you might be thinking about lunch, or you might be thinking about what you're going to do tonight. You might think that, oh my gosh, I got to go to immigration later, and you need to cut that off and bring it back, right? And focus on what it is that you're doing. And if you like to do something else, that's where you go do something else and you focus on that. So if you do just one thing at a time, this is going to gradually train your mind to be really focused and concentrated, and you'll be able to use that quality of mind of concentration and focus in your day-to-day life, and it'll actually help your career to go forward in other parts of your life too. It's wise to only interact with one person at a time, but other people don't necessarily know that that's what you're doing, right? Because you're in the workforce and people don't necessarily know what you're practicing. So you don't need to go around and tell all 300 people, hey, by the way, I can only talk to one person at a time. Don't barge into my office. And when I'm on the phone, this is setting down rules. This is setting down expectations. Instead, you've just got to practice in a way that helps people see the way you make decisions. So if you're on the phone talking to a customer and one of your coworkers barges into your office, well, if you put the phone down and you address that coworker, what you're teaching your coworkers is, hey, just barge into my office anytime and I'll address you, right? And now next thing you know, you have 3, 4, 5, 10 people barging into your office all throughout the day, no matter whether you're on a phone call or not, right? This is really unwise. Instead, if you're on the phone call dealing with a customer and someone barges into your office, just keep talking to your customer. Just deal with one thing at a time, right? And now that person will either wait and realize that, hey, I need to wait for this person, or they're going to leave and they're going to come back later, right? And now what you're doing is you're teaching your coworkers, I just handle one thing at a time. When I was in the professional world, I'd be on the phone sometimes talking with a customer or a employee of mine, and my boss, my director, would walk into the office. I would just sit there and keep talking, right? I'm handling this business, right? I'm not addressing my boss. We can talk later, right? I wouldn't even stop for my boss, right? Or one of the things I used to do when I was in business for myself, and I would teach my admin people, we had 2 lines. So there would be like a line 1 that would call in, and as they were talking to line 1, the way that most people are taught is to put line 1 on hold, answer line 2, tell line 2, hey, I'm going to be back in a minute. I'm talking to line 1. They put line 2 on hold and they come back to line 1. I didn't teach my employees to do it this way. I taught my employees, if you're talking to line 1 and line 2 rolls in, just let it roll over to voicemail. We have caller ID, we have voicemail. Just handle line 1. Just stay focused on line 1. And then when they were done with line 1, they would call back line 2, right? Or also, if they were on the phone and they were talking and a customer would walk in, I would let them know, just keep talking to the person on the phone. Or if somebody walks in and then the phone rings at exactly the same time, I would teach them to handle the person who's in the office first, because they're like a first priority because they're in the office. Where oftentimes what businesses are taught to do is they kind of corral everybody. So if somebody walks into the office and someone answers the phone, they're going to answer the phone first because they're trying to get more people to come into the office. What I would teach people is like, no, this person's already in the office. They're ready to do business with you. Address that person first and just do one thing at a time. And our customers really like this. And we were very successful in our business because we just handled one person at a time. We never put people on hold, and they weren't sitting there waiting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes while we were handling somebody else. So you can just handle one person at a time. I used to do this too with my son when I was at home. I have appointments with students. They schedule personal guidance appointments, and we meet in Zoom. And I would be meeting with a student in Zoom, and my son would barge into my room and be like, Dad, I have an emergency, right? And I'd be like, son, I'm busy. I'll talk to you in a minute, right? I knew he didn't have any emergency. I didn't smell any smoke, right? There's no emergency. So I would just handle that person, right? And then after I'd be done, then I would ask him what's going on, and then I would address that, right? Well, come to find out, it's like, Dad, my batteries in my remote control car are out. It was an emergency. I needed to talk to you, right? No, son, that's not an emergency, right? So over time, it took about 10 or 15 times of him barging in and realizing Dad's not going to address him when he walks in, that now he doesn't even barge into my room. He knows that Dad's not going to talk to him if he just walks in, because I'm there with a student. I'm just handling one thing at a time. So you teach the people around you in the way that you make decisions of how they're going to interact with you. So if someone barges in and you address them right away, you can be sure that person's going to keep barging into your office over and over and over and over again. So just handle one person at a time, and slowly but surely, people will learn how you handle things. You don't have to go out and put expectations on people of how you want them to interact with you. Sometimes people call this boundaries. This is very unwise, going around and trying to teach everybody how to interact with you. Instead, just interact with others the way that you would like to interact with them. And now you maintain the decision ability of how you're going to interact with people. And slowly but surely, the people around you will understand that. They will learn that. Whereas if you go out and try to teach others how you want them to interact with you, they're not always going to make the decision in that way. Because of impermanence, they're not going to make that decision in that way. But if you know how you would like to interact with others and what is wise, you can maintain that decision ability. And now you make those decisions. And now people slowly learn through the way you make decisions of how you choose to make decisions. And you'll see more and more people will interact with you in that way. It's important to maintain your calmness or your equanimity at work, because that's going to promote mindfulness or awareness of mind in your mind, which is then going to promote concentration or focus, which then allows you to access your wisdom and make wise decisions in any given situation. If your mind is all shaken up and uncalm, you're not going to have awareness of mind or mindfulness. You're not going to have focus and concentration, and you're not going to be able to access your wisdom to be able to make wise decisions. What you need to be able to get to is 100% wise decisions at all times in your life. That's how you're going to get to enlightenment. Is you got to first learn the natural law of karma, bring your practice up to that level, and then live your life that way for an extended period of time, making nothing but wise decisions. So when your mind's all shaken up and it's uncalm, you can't make wise decisions. So if you notice that your mind is shaken up, don't make any decisions. Your decision can be, I'm not going to make any decisions here. I need to go get my mind calm before I'm able to make some decisions. One of the best ways to see this is, let's just say you got a phone call that your mom's been in a terrible car accident and she's in the back of an ambulance being rushed to the hospital, and you get this phone call. Well, if you're attached to your mom and you're craving for mom to be permanently healthy, your mind could easily be shaken up in this situation. And now with your mind being all shaken up, you might grab your car keys, jump in your car, race across town to try to get to the hospital, and now you end up getting into a car accident yourself. because your mind was uncalm, you didn't have mindfulness, you didn't have concentration, and you weren't making wise decisions, right? Well, if you understand this process here and what the Buddha teaches you to maintain calmness and composure, especially in difficult situations, that's equanimity. Well, now when you get that phone call that mom's been in a terrible car accident, you can, if you need to, just pause, make sure your mind's nice and calm, and now make your way to the hospital. Whether you get there, 5 minutes earlier or 10 minutes earlier or not, isn't going to change a thing about mom's success in getting back to health. She's with emergency medical technicians in the back of the ambulance. She's about to arrive to the hospital with doctors and nurses and sophisticated equipment. You getting there 5 or 10 minutes prior to when you would have otherwise gotten there if you took your time isn't going to change anything. In fact, if you show up with a calm mind, now you can talk to the doctors and nurses. You can understand what's going on. You can make some decisions that's going to help mom. Whereas if you show up with a shaken up mind, even if you didn't get in a car accident and you showed up and your mind's all shaken up and frazzled, you're not going to be able to understand what the doctors and nurses are saying, and therefore you're not going to be able to make wise decisions to help her. So this applies to a business environment too, that you would like to maintain your calmness and composure, because you might get phone calls about your personal life during your workday, or there might be certain things at work that are shaking your mind up as well. Maybe you find out that a lot of people are getting laid off. 15% of the company's getting laid off on Friday, and now it's Wednesday, and your mind's all shaken up because you're worried about whether it's going to be you or not, right? So you got to maintain your calmness and composure even in the work environment. Okay, that's going to help you to get to wisdom and make wise decisions to produce wholesome karma. So this is the Eightfold Path. This is what you're going to need to be practicing on a daily basis in your personal and your professional life. If you don't know this yet, you're going to need to learn this and commit it to your memory. I have a study guide on our website that will help you to study this, because you really need to commit it to memory. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they had to commit all the teachings to memory. That's why they do the chanting. But for us, you really mainly need to commit this to the memory, because you won't be able to practice it if you don't commit it to memory. So there's books, there's audiobooks, there's videos, there's podcasts, there's the study guide, all these ways that you can actually work to study and commit this to your memory. As you learn this and you commit this to memory in the way that the Buddha taught it, there are certain underlying lessons that are in each one of these steps that are going to help you in the workforce too. You need to learn it in the way that the Buddha taught it in order to be able to get to enlightenment. But then once you've learned it as a way to get to enlightenment, there's some underlying lessons that you can extrapolate from this Eightfold Path that's going to help you in the work environment as well, in addition to the core teaching. So, for example, with right view, if you've learned right view in the Four Noble Truths, where the Buddha explains the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. Well, the underlying message that the Buddha has there, in addition to helping you to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings and that it's craving, desire, attachment that's causing it, the underlying message is take responsibility and accountability for your own feelings, your own intentions, your speech, your actions. That's what he's teaching you. So you can apply this in the work environment too, that you can accept responsibility for certain projects and assignments, certain responsibilities at work. If you tell your boss, hey, I'm going to get this done by Thursday, and it's the next Monday or Tuesday and you haven't turned in the work yet, it's not going to go well for you in the professional environment. So you'd like to accept responsibility for certain assignments and certain projects and then see that through all the way to the end. So obviously right view is the Four Noble Truths and understanding that it's craving, desire, attachment that's causing these discontent feelings. But there's kind of like this underlying message that the Buddha is teaching you there is to accept responsibility for your intentions, your speech, your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, all these things. So you can apply that to the work environment too, so that you understand that everything you experience is a result of your decisions. If you get looked over for a promotion or you get a promotion, this is a result of your decisions, right? So accept responsibility and acknowledge responsibility for projects. Then, of course, with right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, you would like to practice all of those in the way that the Buddha teaches them in the Eightfold Path. That's why you need to commit those to your memory so that you can actually practice those in your day-to-day life, not only in your personal life, but in your business life as well. And then you're going to need to also apply right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, the mental discipline section. While you're at work, you're going to need to have mindfulness and looking over the mind. And anytime you see any kind of unwholesome qualities coming into your mind, you're going to need to apply the right effort to cut that off and eliminate it. And you're going to need to cultivate the wholesome qualities that the Buddha teaches you as well in order to bring those into the mind. So let me just stop here and see what questions you guys have. This is everything, just kind of a short little topic to help you guys keep in mind that you need to practice the teachings at work as well.
So I've been reflecting on right livelihood and how the Buddha says, do not engage, something like this, right? Do not engage in weapons, or do not make business in weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I was reflecting on that, an example came to my mind, and I was wondering if you can clarify the following.
Sure.
So what about for a person that works in the defense sector for the country? So let's imagine you are from Thailand or any country, and you work for the defense sector for the Thai government. So you're not engaging in bringing people to war. You are kind of like designing or planning on how to protect the country if something bad were to happen. Would that defense, would working in the defense sector in kind of that branch, so like purely defense, not produce unwholesome gamma? Or where do I situate that? Like where do I allocate that?
Yeah. So you were asking me this question. We were at the restaurant the other day, like how to verify the natural law of gamma. So this is a good example, like something with weapons. You can look in the world and you can see that there's been some people who were building certain types of weapons and another country assassinated those people. Are you familiar with these cases?
No, but I can imagine.
So in that's the wonderful thing about how information is at our fingertips, that you get, your YouTube feed, you get your news feed, you can see there's been many cases in the last several years where there's certain scientists that are working on certain weaponry for a particular government, and another government found out what they were doing. And these are, enemies, these two countries. And that one country ended up putting together a plan to assassinate these people because they were instrumental in building this new weaponry that was supposed to, cause a lot of damage in their country. So yes, the answer is there's definitely unwholesome karma whenever you're building any weapons or having a livelihood connected to weaponry at all. So whether someone chooses to do that or not, it's a choice for them to make. This is one of the reasons why I think in a lot of societies, people have a lot of admiration for people who are in the military and are doing these kinds of things, because there is a certain amount of unwholesome karma associated with this. And this is oftentimes why governments tend to take really good care of the people who are in this field, because they are accumulating a significant amount of unwholesome karma by choosing to do that livelihood.
Sorry, can I, because I don't know if I fully understand, so can I ask another question related?
Of course, yeah.
I guess what I'm struggling to understand is if you are defending, to begin with, I agree that there shouldn't be countries and there shouldn't be borders. But
I didn't say that, but
no, yeah. I guess whilst you're speaking, my brain ticks. So sorry. So what I wanted to say is, so if you are working for defense, as in not attacking, so you, for example, are trying to build up plans or actions on if Thailand gets attacked by someone, we have this plan in action. But we're not necessarily going to use it. We're just kind of building up missions or be prepared in case Thailand get attacked. So you are kind of having like a role of protecting the country rather than necessarily building a weapon to potentially attack another country. So where I struggle is you are protecting, like the same way you are protecting your child, you are protecting the country, right?
I understand what you're saying, but you need to be able to see past your current roadblocks in your mind to see that even if your intention is defense and you're there defending, there is unwholesome karma because you can very easily be killed yourself, right? It's not about, this is where you can see that it's not about right or wrong, right? That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. He's not teaching you this black and white world about what's right and what's wrong. He's just helping you to see the cause and effect relationship of your choices and what it's going to lead to. So choosing to be involved in weaponry that is meant to kill and harm other beings, if you're in that field, you're very likely to get harmed yourself because you're doing a livelihood that is based on causing harm to others, even for defense. You're still in that field where now, let's just say you're defending, this other country is going to come and attack, and now you're likely to get killed, for example, or injured. Or let's just say you're working on the weaponry and the weaponry blows up in your face, right? And now you've got all kinds of issues for your own health, right? Whereas if you were selling apples at a market, obviously there's still risk. You can get in an accident on your way too. Nothing is completely safe because there's 5 things that you can't obtain, which you're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction, even as an enlightened being. But that's based in impermanence. It's not based on your livelihood. In terms of selling apples, you're not going to experience the same risk and the same potential harms as selling weaponry and being involved in that.
So even if my intention is wholesome, like my intention is to protect.
Yes.
There's still, even if my intention is wholesome, I will experience unwholesome karma.
Yes, because you need to be able to see, okay, if I'm working on this weaponry, and you play out different scenarios of what could potentially happen, and that's where you can see the karma, right? If I'm working on this weaponry can easily blow up in my face. There's a risk there, right? Or this weapon, could be desirable from another country. They know that we're working on it. Maybe they want to get the secrets, or maybe they want to stop us from working on this, and they might assassinate me in order to be able to get the secrets or stop us from being able to make progress on that weapon. So you need to be able to see all these different options of potentials. Whereas if I'm growing apples on my land, nobody's going to come and bomb me and try to assassinate me because I'm growing apples. Right. So there's you have to look beyond your current perceptions of what you think and look at what are all the possibilities here. And then again, whether someone chooses to do that or not, it's a choice for them to make. The Buddha's not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. He's just helping you see the natural law of karma. And then whatever you choose for your livelihood is your choice for your livelihood. Because for some people, they might be like, hey, I know that risk is there, but I would still like to do this out of service to my country. And this is what I'm going to do. Okay, up to you. But just, that person can understand that, hey, there's this risk here, a more significant risk than if you're selling apples in the orchard of your home.
Okay. Okay. I reflect on it because thank you.
Yep.
Just sort of a related question, because it got me thinking about intention versus result. What about someone who is, let's say, a medic in an open war, right? So in that case, would that be bad karma because they're trying to save a life, but then of course, maybe they save a soldier and then that soldier kills somebody, right? So how does that fall?
Yeah, see, that's a perfect example, right? Like somebody's intention is to help someone's health, but they're in a war zone, where bombs are being dropped. This is an unwise decision. And it's not saying that there's something wrong with that person or they're a bad person or that they shouldn't do that. It's just that your decisions are leading to certain results. And even as a medic, with all the intentions of trying to save this person's life, and that's your intention behind it, if your livelihood is bringing you into that environment, now you're going to experience the consequences of that decision. So yeah, that's where you're still potentially going to die yourself. Again, whether someone chooses to do it or not, it's a choice for them to make. This natural law isn't anything mystical or magical. There's no force field around that wartime military medic that they're not going to get hurt or injured or killed just because they're providing medical care. They still have just as much likelihood of getting killed as the next person because they're in a war zone and they're contributing to this group of people who's going to kill that group of people. This medic is contributing to that. So even though their intention is to help the health of this soldier, that soldier is then also going to be killing others. So that's why the medic is just as much at risk of experiencing unwholesome karma as the other people as well.
So just a follow-up question, because let's say it's not a medic, but let's say it's an aid worker delivering food in a war zone to a displaced community, right? And in that case, delivering the food to that community, it sounds like it still puts that person at risk.
Yes.
But is that unwholesome karma because they're trying to help people that those people wouldn't in turn attack other people? These are just people who need medical aid and food.
Yeah, it's still an unwise choice because you're entering into a war zone, right? And now when you're in that war zone, you know that bombs are being dropped and you can potentially, get injured or killed too. Now, whether you do it or not, again, it's a choice for each individual to make. I'm not telling people what they should or shouldn't do, but you just need to be able to see the results of decisions that you make. If you enter into a war zone, you're going to potentially experience getting killed or injured or some other unwholesome karma, because it's nothing mystical or magical. It's just a sequence of events of what's happening. And that's where each person needs to decide for themselves, are they interested in doing this risk? And ideally, if everyone in the world was practicing the teachings of the Buddha, there would be no war zones, right? There wouldn't need to be any bombs. That's the ultimate goal, that if everybody learns and practices these teachings, we won't have militaries. We won't need a military, right? Because everybody's treating each other wonderfully and we don't fear another country. So ultimately, that would be the ultimate goal. But that's not the state of the world right now. So you can see that in that situation, yes, there's unwholesome karma. But ideally, more and more people would practice these teachings and we wouldn't have these kinds of situations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mine's a bit boring. Doesn't involve weapons. So I think my question is, how do you balance between, I'm okay, I'm at work, I'm happy enough. Is happy enough good enough? Is, I don't hate it, but I don't, I'm not crazy about it. And I earn good money and, then how do you, yeah.
By the time you get to a fully purified livelihood, you will thoroughly enjoy the work that you're doing. It's not just like, I'll take it or leave it. It's not that. It sounds like that's maybe what you're at right now.
I think what you like might not be what you're good at. It's like, say for example, I don't know, I like the idea of being a travel blogger, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm good at it because I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to, shoot whatever. But I'm good at what I'm doing currently. But then I don't know if I love it. I don't know if So
what I would encourage you to do is think beyond the skills that you currently have, because whatever skills you currently have were based on decisions that you made in the past. And oftentimes those decisions are based in craving that for example, when I first went to college, I took a career in life planning class. And at the end of this career in life planning class, I decided I was interested in being a police officer or a social worker. And then I ended up taking a bunch of classes like psychology, sociology, computers, different things. I was trying to figure out what I would like to do. Well, once I took the computer class, this was in the early 90s, mid 90s, I realized that computer people make a lot of money and I grew up poor. So I was like, I want money, right? So I started going down that path, and I got my degree, and I got a professional job, and I worked for many years in the IT field, making all kinds of money, right? Well, then eventually that craving burned out, and I didn't enjoy it anymore, but I had those skills, right? But I decided to shift, and I decided to change. And ultimately, you see where I got back to, which is I really like helping people. That was what I figured out early in life, in my early, I was 17, 18 years old. I figured that out, but my cravings took me in a whole different direction. It's kind of like a big detour, right? So whatever skills you currently have are potentially based in cravings that you've had, and that's what's driven you to where you are now. But if you have the idea that, gosh, I'd really like to be a travel blogger, but I don't have those skills, instead of avoiding that, if that's what you truly are interested in doing, get those skills. Cultivate the wisdom. It just means you need to do some work to be able to figure out how to get those skills, where oftentimes the mind can be complacent and not being interested in acquiring those skills. But if you know that you would much more prefer being a travel blogger than what you're currently doing, don't allow your current skill set to hinder you from being able to do this thing that you would really enjoy. It just means that you need to do some work to get some skills to be able to do this. And now once you do that, it's going to be so much more enjoyable for you because you've worked to a certain degree to be able to acquire those skills.
But then, well, how do you differentiate between like reality and idea? Or it's kind of like, sometimes you see something, you go, oh, wow, that's really cool. I love that. Maybe, that's, really, yeah, like that's a really cool job to do. And then once you start doing it, you go, oh, that's not what it seems like, kind of thing. And yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's nice to try a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So I had many different things. Like, started out in food service as a teenager. Actually, I started out delivering newspapers when I was 12 years old. That was my very first job. I used to cut grass. I used to do food service. Slowly but surely you do all these different jobs, and then eventually you find out what is it that you really thoroughly enjoy, because you've got those cravings, desires, attachments. You've got that pollution in your mind that's pulling you in all these different directions. And that's what the second fold of purification is. For anybody who hasn't seen volume 12 chapter 14, is to get rid of the fetters in the pollutions of mind that are pulling you in lots of different directions, right? Because you'll have sensual desire that's pulling you in a certain direction. Some people might have conceit or ego, right? Like, let's just say I wanted to be a police officer, not to help people, but say I wanted to have all this power and I wanted to push people around and throw them on the ground and handcuff them. And I wanted, when I walked into the room wearing this badge, I wanted everybody to kind of acknowledge me, and I wanted to feel this power. Well, that's coming from my conceit in that situation. Not every police officer has conceit, but there's some people who choose to go in that profession for that purpose, right? So the first fold of purification is the ones that I taught you here, but the second fold is getting rid of the pollutions out of your mind, so that way, whatever livelihood you choose and whatever you're doing as a livelihood, you don't have those pollutions in your mind as part of your livelihood. So you can be pulled in so many different directions. And what you need to do to be able to get to that second fold of purification is really practice the Eightfold Path very closely, so you can get more and more of that pollution out of your mind, and more you can figure out, what is it that I would really like to be doing? And to a certain degree, yes, you need to be practicing the Eightfold Path fully and in detail, but then also you need to be trying different jobs and seeing what it is that you actually would like to do. In fact, I've heard about something in Germany that they probably have it other places too, that they have internships that you can, like, through the government, they organize, like, you can work at a certain job for 2 weeks and you spend like 2 weeks there, and then you can go to another one and another one. And I don't think you get paid, but it gives you a chance to kind of try it out and kind of test drive it. I think that's a wonderful idea, because it allows people to kind of experience a lot of different jobs before they decide, aha, this is what I'd like to be doing. So you're going to need to kind of explore that way by trying a bunch of things.
Yeah, I think that's probably, like my insecurities, and, as in being in the comfort zone for too long, you kind of go,
Yeah.
I'm too scared to, like,
Yeah. But don't just accept the fact that you have certain skills now and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because there's a lot of joy in developing new skills and trying a new career. I could give you many examples of how I did that, where like there were certain jobs or certain companies that I started that I had no skills in that company whatsoever, and I acquired those skills, and it was really fun to be able to acquire those new skills. It was very challenging to be able to try to acquire those new skills, and it was really enjoyable to be able to build that ability. So don't limit yourself to just the skills that you have now. Yep. Okay, so this is everything on this topic. I think we can move into this next topic, because this next topic only takes me like 5 or 10 minutes to teach it to you, and then we can talk about it. Okay, so this next one is called The Art of the Friendly No, How to Say No Without Saying No. People have said I should write a book that entitle it this way. So I'm going to teach you guys this topic and then help you guys understand how to apply it. So when you're learning on the path to enlightenment, you're working to train your mind to get to the point where you don't experience discontentedness anymore. And one of the first things that you learn is that it's your own mind that's causing discontentedness. It's your own mind that's causing the anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all these other discontent feelings. So the Buddha is teaching you how to get rid of your pollutions so that you can experience peace and joy, and more all those other qualities of enlightenment. And as part of that, he's teaching you a certain moral conduct like speech, actions, and a livelihood, so that when you interact with other people, you can do so peacefully, that you're not making decisions based on craving, desire, attachment. So this path is all about training your own mind and getting to the point where you can navigate the world peacefully and joyfully. Well, part of what the Buddha is also teaching you is how to navigate the world full of unenlightened beings, because there's lots of unenlightened beings in the world, and they have craving, desire, attachment, and they're not going to necessarily know that it's their own mind that's causing their own anger and frustration and sadness and so forth and so on. So, for example, when the Buddha teaches you right speech, and he teaches you to speak at the proper time, what you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness, right? This is going to help you to be able to get to a point where your mind's peaceful and you can easily practice right speech. But also for someone interacting with you, if they have no idea about the teachings of the Buddha, because they're the universal truths and the universal the natural laws, when you are interacting with this person through right speech, they'll be like, wow, this person's so friendly, they're so kind, they're so nice, wow, this is so enjoyable talking to this person, right? They're not going to necessarily know what you're practicing, but they're just going to know like, wow, this person is like so easy to get along with, they're so nice to spend time with, and so forth and so on. So the Buddha is teaching you how to get to peace and how to get to joy, but he's also teaching you how to navigate the world and interact with people who have a lot of craving in their mind. So this particular topic is kind of in that vein, that when you are invited, say, to like a party, like if you're in a business environment or in your personal friends, if they say, hey, I'm having this party this weekend, I really want you to come, will you come? If you say, no, I'm not going to come. Well, if they have a real craving, a real longing, yearning for you to come, and you say, no, I'm not coming, they're going to experience painful feelings because their craving is not getting fulfilled. And now those painful feelings that they have, they don't realize it's coming from their own mind. They think it's coming from you. And what you're going to find is people are going to push you aside. They're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to start pressuring you and putting expectations on you and trying to convince you to come to their party, right? Or let's just say one of your friends say, hey, can I borrow some money? And you say, no, you can't borrow money. They have this craving to get that money, and you say no, their mind's not getting their craving fulfilled. They're experiencing painful feelings, and they don't realize that it's coming from their own mind. And again, they're going to either push you aside, they're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to start pressuring you and putting expectations on you and can try to convince you to give them the money. So when you're having these kinds of situations, there's a way for you to say no without saying no. And that's what I'm going to teach you, okay? So the problem is that the unenlightened mind does not typically like hearing the word no, and other versions of that too, like can't, don't, won't, right? If they get angry because they hear these words, they're causing their own anger. but they don't realize that that's what's happening. They don't realize that their own mind is causing this anger and frustration. So where possible, it's best to not use these words and find alternative ways to communicate. This will help preserve your relationships. Okay. So for example, if somebody invited me to a party or some event, and I know right from the beginning, I'm not going to go to this party. There's no way I'm going to go to this party. Well, when somebody invites me to a party, I might say something like, I really appreciate you thinking about me and inviting me to that party. If I'm able to come, I will let you know. Just leave it at that. Right? Thank you so much for inviting me, so much for thinking about me and inviting me to this party. If I'm able to go, I'll let you know. And then sometimes what you get from them is like, oh, come on, can you just tell me now? Like, I need to know. I'll let you know if I can come, right? And then I just leave it at that, right? Because now I'll just never call them and tell them that I'm coming. And I'll see them 3 weeks later and be like, hey, how was your party? And they're like, oh, it was a blast. It was great. Too bad you couldn't come. It's like, yeah, no worries. Maybe in the future I'll be able to come, right? So now we have a wonderful relationship. But if I say, no, I can't come to your party, and they're craving for me to come to their party, they're either going to get angry, they're going to push me aside and never invite me to anything ever again, and I just lost a friend, or they're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile. They're going to be angry and frustrated and start being bitter and harsh and hostile, or they're going to start putting their expectations on me. Come on, David, just come to the party. We're going to set up a microphone and you can teach Buddhism. Like, we're going to put you in the middle of the party and you can teach meditation. And they're just going to try to pressure you to try to be able to come when you've already know that you're not going to come, right? So you can say no without saying no. You're going to have different statements and different ways of saying this. Let's just say someone asks you to borrow money, and they're like, hey, I've got my rent coming up and I can't pay the rent. And I was wondering, can you give me $600 to help me pay my rent? Well, maybe you already know you're not going to let this person borrow money. And you might say something like, hey, I'm pleased that you think of me as a good enough friend to be able to ask me to borrow money. By the way, do you have somebody else that you could maybe ask for this? Right? This is a way for you to kind of move them on to somebody else. Or, that's something I'm going to need to check my finances and determine whether or not I'm able to let you borrow that money. And if I'm able, I will let you know. And once again, they're craving, right? They might be like, oh, come on, I really need this money. Like, I need it tomorrow. Can you just give it to me now? I was like, well, I need to look at my finances and I'm not able to do that right now. But if I look at them and I'm able to help you, I will definitely let you know, right? Because when you let people borrow money, you need to understand, because of impermanence, sometimes they're going to pay you back and sometimes they're not. So if you ever let someone actually borrow money, on a side note from this topic here, I suggest that you never allow someone to borrow more money than what you can afford to lose, right? So if you have, say, $10,000 in your bank account and that's your total life savings, if you let them borrow $9,000, in my opinion, that would be unwise, because now you've depleted your resources by 90%. But maybe you can let this person borrow $20 or $100, right? And that's, if they didn't pay you back, even though you're looking for them to pay you back, if they didn't pay you back, it's not going to harm you. So you're never interested in allowing someone to borrow money that if they didn't pay you back, it would cause you harm. That's what you would like to be able to look at when you're letting people borrow money. This is just a side note from the art of the friendly no. Okay. So I didn't understand this at one point in my life. And I had a really good friend come to me right after I graduated from college, and I was living on my own and I had very minimal salary and I had certain bills that I needed to pay. And I wasn't actually able to let this person borrow money. And he came to visit me on a Sunday morning, and he had went out Saturday night with his friends, and he was a senior in college and I was the year ahead. So I had graduated just before him. And he came to me and on a Sunday morning and he said, hey, David, I need to borrow like $300, which that was a lot of money to me at the time. And I was like, really? Why? And he said, oh, I have to pay for my tuition. I have to pay for my books, and I don't feel comfortable to ask my parents for the money. And I would like to get it from you instead. And this guy was a really good friend. Like, we had a really great relationship. We never had a harsh word between the two of us. And I said, no, I can't let you borrow this money. I said, if you don't pay your bills, you're going to end up going home to mom and dad and spending time with mom and dad. If I don't pay my bills, I don't have anywhere to go. And he didn't like that. And then I even asked him, I said, what did you do last night? He said, oh, I went to the bar with my friends. I was like, really? What'd you do? He's like, oh man, I had like 12 drinks. I did this, I did that, I did that. I said, well, why didn't you use that money for your tuition? You know, why are you coming to me? Right? He didn't like that. Right? So once that guy left, I never heard from him ever again. Right? Because he had aversion. He pushed me away. Right? Never heard from that person ever again, not even a peep. Right? So if you say these kinds of things where you just say no, or you try to rationalize with them and show them that they're making unwise decisions by going to the bar instead of paying their tuition for school and stuff, they're not going to like that, right? Because I was giving him unsolicited guidance in that situation. So instead, you can use the art of the friendly no. Saying no without saying no. And this comes with practice. And it's not, sometimes when I teach this, people are like, oh, this is kind of wishy-washy. This isn't being direct and clear and all of this. Well, I've had those same people contact me 6 months later, a year later, and say, David, thank you so much for teaching this. I've been using it and it's working wonderful. So whether you choose to use this or not, it's a choice for you to make. But what I'm sharing with you is that your friends, your family, your coworkers, when they hear the word no, they're not going to like it. And now it's going to cause difficulties in your relationships. If you use these types of phrases that I'm sharing with you, it'll help you preserve your relationships. So if you guys have examples that you would like help with, or if you have questions on this, you can let me know.
Hello. What would your advice be if you've already said yes and you've, I guess, fulfilled somebody else's craving, and then like say, yes, I'll go to your party, and then you've changed your mind. So the base has already been set. How would you navigate that?
Yeah, what I would do is I would contact them and I would say, hey, Barbara, you invited me to your party the other day, and you know I was really planning to come, and this was something I was looking forward to. But I'm curious, how would you feel if my plans changed and I was unable to actually come to your party? How would you feel about that? And if they were like, oh, I'd be really upset, I'd be really frustrated because, you know, I was really looking forward to you coming, and I've told all my friends that you're coming, and it's going to make me look bad that you're not coming. You know, they can say any number of things like this, right? Because their personal existence view and stuff. You're like, okay, I really understand that. You know, what if I really need to go do something else, and what if it's really important for me, and without doing that thing, it's going to be very detrimental to my life, and it's going to be very significant in my life. Would you still feel the same way? Right? You're kind of helping them to walk through their feelings because they don't understand that it's their own cravings that are causing these feelings. So what you're trying to do here is you're trying to get their mind to release and trying to get them to let go of their craving, because they're having a craving for you to come. And if you just say, no, I can't come, they're going to be dealing with their craving and they're going to get painful feelings. But by asking them questions like this, you're trying to get their mind to the point where we'll release, and they'll say, okay, yeah, I understand. If you need to not come to your party, I'd rather you come, but I understand that you can't come, and I'm completely fine with that. That's what you're trying to get them to, the point where they say that kind of thing, where they're like, hey, I'm fine if you don't come, because that means their mind has let go.
So you want to guide them to understand how it would impact you.
Yes. Without necessarily saying it directly, you ask questions. You say, well, what if this other thing that I need to do is so impactful that if I didn't do it, it's going to be very detrimental to my life, and it's going to, you know, it's going to cause significant, you know, issues for me in my life. You know, do you still feel the same way? Do you still really want me to come to your party? Or is this something that you're able to let go of and understand that I need to go do this other thing, and it has no reflection on my feelings towards you and my friendship with you, but it's just something that I really need to go do? You know, would you feel the same way? Is this something that your mind can let go of? You know, you might even use that kind of language.
And I know we've talked about this before, but you don't want to apologize either.
Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. If you apologize, it immediately looks like you're doing something wrong, and now it's going to change their mind of how they're perceiving the situation. So if you're like, oh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way, I'm sorry that I've made you feel that way, that's reinforcing wrong view, because you haven't made them feel that way. It's their own mind that's causing that. So if you start saying those kinds of things, you're putting yourself as responsible for their feelings, which is now producing wrong view in their mind. And now they're even more likely to attribute their painful feelings to you, because you're actually accepting responsibility for their painful feelings. So you might say things like, I understand your feelings. I understand where you're coming from. I understand this is challenging for you. I realize that I committed to doing this previously, but things have just changed for me. And if it wasn't for this change, I would definitely be coming to your party, and it'd be great to be there. In fact, I already made this dish that I was going to bring for you. And if possible, I'd like to even drop this off for you so you guys can have this food, so that you guys can still enjoy it, because I already made this for you. Right. So you can do these kinds of things. When I got married, the first time, my boss at the time had agreed to come to the wedding, and it was a catered event. It was a very small wedding. It was like 40 people, 50 people, something like this. So it was like, close to $100 per person for this catered event. And my boss had agreed to come, but the morning of the wedding, he sent me an email or a text message and said, hey, I can't come. He didn't tell me why, but we all knew that his girlfriend at the time was very challenging for him, and she would kind of come up with different things, and he would have last minute changes like this. But he ended up sending with one of my coworkers money that more than paid for his dish at the catered event that we had for the wedding, which that was a way to ensure that your decision, your impermanence, doesn't cause harm to somebody else. So if there's a situation like this where you've agreed to something and now your plans change, it's usually best to put into the conversation, what harm are you going to experience by me not coming to this event? My boss didn't say this, but he just decided on his own to give me more than enough money to pay for the food. But this is a wise thing to do, because you might not see it, right? You can say, what kind of harm are you going to experience by me not coming? And they might say, oh, I'll just have hurt feelings, right? So what you're dealing with is craving. But if they're like, oh, well, I bought all these things, and if you don't come, there's going to be this $30 thing that nobody's going to be able to use. And you're like, you know what? Well, I'd like to compensate you for that. I'd like to give you some money so that you don't incur that harm. Because even though it's just impermanence and it's something unforeseen, this has created a situation where this person is using a certain amount of money, and you would like to compensate for that. And that's a wise way to make sure you're not causing harm just because of your impermanence. And you can say like that, you can say, oh, I'm sorry that you've purchased this. I apologize that my plans have changed. You can say things like this. And I would like to make sure that you have the money that you need. In fact, it's only $30, but how about if I give you $50 so that way it'll cover mine and maybe somebody else's as well. And this is a way for you to kind of keep things smooth with your relationships.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I had a situation like that one time. A student had they invited me and my family out to dinner. And we were like 2 hours away from supposed to go to this dinner. We were supposed to meet them at the restaurant, and they contacted me and they said, hey, David, I'm so sorry. I just remembered that I agreed to meet you and your family. I invited you guys to dinner, and we're supposed to meet at a restaurant in 2 hours. And I was like, oh, yeah, no worries. I was like, she's like, I'm in Pi. I can't even get there. Right. She was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, oh, no worries. We can do it another time. She ended up buying like Grab food and having it delivered to our house so that we would have a meal. There was no expectation that she would do that, but that was her practice, that she chose to do something like that because of her agreement. And she had agreed to bring us to this dinner, and we didn't have any expectation that we would get fed, but that was really nice of her to make sure that this was taken care of, and that's the way you would like to handle things. And then when she got back into town, she ended up taking us to a restaurant as well. But those are the kinds of things you would like to do, that even though you are experiencing impermanence, even though their craving is causing their own discontentedness, you would like to make sure you haven't caused any harm with anybody's physical body, material objects, or their reputation. And then that way it keeps everything clean, where you don't experience any unwholesome karma. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about if there is a family event? Because with family, you normally have more attachments and expectations from them.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a family event in which it's not that you cannot go, it's just that you don't want to go because you don't like the type of people that are going to be in that event.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that I could say something in the lines, "Thank you for thinking about me, and I will let you know if I can come."
Mm-hmm.
But because it's family, they probably will expect an explanation. Because, and
doesn't change anything. Just because they expect an explanation doesn't mean you have to give them one.
When it be rude?
Nope.
Because
this word rude is oftentimes tossed around. When you're not meeting someone else's expectations, they will call it rude in order to be able to get you to now do what they want you to do. It's not rude to not give information. You haven't caused any harm by choosing not to give someone some information. So if they're like, "Well, why can't you come? Like, we want you to come." "Oh, if I can come, I'll let you know." It's like, "But come on, tell me, like, why can't you come?" "I've got to go, Mom. Sorry. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye." And if they're like, "Wow, she's so rude. She didn't even tell me this. She didn't." That's where you've got to get rid of your personal existence view, where you're not wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. If you have a craving to be perceived by others in a certain way, when they start calling you rude, you'll be upset and frustrated, right? You'll experience guilt or shame or fear, but you've got to see true reality, that you haven't caused any harm here and you're not truly being rude. The only thing that's happened is you haven't met their expectation. That's what you're doing on the path to enlightenment, is more and more you're seeing true reality, because your mind's craving, your mind's conditioning will keep you stuck and locked and think that somehow you've done something wrong by not sharing information. But you've got to see true reality, that this is just this person's expectation of wanting the information, and you're just choosing not to share it. You haven't caused any harm. That's your personal decision to not share this information. And that's something that's fully in your ability to not do. And if someone's trying to pressure you to share information, that's just their craving. And you just need to see that for what it is. And that's what the Buddha's helping you to be able to get to more and more, is to see true reality.
And even if I know that if I don't go to the event or if I don't give an explanation, I know that they're going to be gossiping about me or, ill. But that will not necessarily create unwholesome karma to me.
No.
But I know it's going to hurt.
Even when you're enlightened, you're going to have people that are gossiping about you, but your mind will be unaffected by that, right? So when I tell people that when you get to enlightenment, you've extinguished 100% of all your unwholesome karma, what they hear is everybody's doing things my way. This isn't the case, right? Even as an enlightened being, people are still going to gossip about you, right? So it's not like everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, she's enlightened, let's not gossip about her." No, they're going to gossip about you still, but your mind is going to be unaffected by it. So if people are gossiping and slandering you, what they're telling you is they have ill will towards you. They would like to cause you harm, and you'd like to be as far away from those people as possible. Right? You're not interested, even if they're family. You're not interested in being around people who have ill will towards you. You're interested in being around people who are interested in seeing you succeed and build up your life, and they have loving kindness for you. So when people are gossiping and slandering about you, that's an indication to you that they have ill will in their mind towards you, and you'd like to be as far away from those people as possible. because they want to tear you down. And it's really unwise to associate with those types of individuals, even if they're family. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is it's like I do my Christmas. It is a family event, and when I started to go to Spain, I spent the whole winter in Spain, and my mom is talking to me that I have come to the Christmas to see the family, and I said, Mom, you have the same way. If you want to see me on Christmas, you can come to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, yeah, but we are all here in Germany. Yeah, but I did not like to go into snow and into winter, and it's not a problem for me if you come to me, but I didn't want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this first time, and to Easter they did not ask.
Okay.
And so I'm free, yeah. When I decided to have Easter with my family, I go home, and if I decided to want to see my own kids, yeah, I have two grown childs, to see on Christmas holiday, I go, and if I did not want, I did not go. It is what you said yesterday. It is not love when I come to Christmas. It is love when my children mean that it is more quality to have the time with us three than the non-quality with the whole family, because it is a family day. And that's why I decided not to have a Christmas or Easter with my family. Mm-hmm. When I wanted to see my family, then I invited her to Spain. I pay the hotel, the flights, everything they want, and then they come, and everything is fine. And it's not because of a family day that I have to go everywhere. I did not want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, in that situation, you're not causing any harm. They might expect you to come home to Germany for Christmas, but that's not what you're interested in, right? So if they have a craving, if they have an expectation, they'll try to pressure you. They'll try to convince you to come, but you just maintain your decision, and their mind's going to ultimately have to let go. The more that you function without attachment, more and more the people around you will start to become unattached to you. Whereas if your parents are attached to you and they're trying to convince you to come to Germany for Christmas, and you're attached to them, and you go even though you're not interested in going, and now you feel miserable that you're there, and now there's arguments and frustration, nobody's having a good time, this isn't ideal. This isn't that better way of life that the Buddha taught. But if you say, I would like to stay in Spain, and your family says, okay, that's fine, but just know that you're always welcome to come home to Germany. They're unattached, you're unattached, everybody's getting what they like, there's no pressure from either side, everybody's peaceful, right? And then when you would like to go to Germany in the summer when it's not cold, then you go and you have a great time, and they have a great time seeing you. And then when they'd like to come to Spain, they come to Spain and they have a great time. Everybody's doing wonderful. So more and more, when you practice non-attachment, the people around you will start to become unattached to you. But if you feed into those attachments, just because you're worried about someone gossiping about you at an event and you decide to go just because of that, now your mind's bound up. You've got to get independent of that and break free of that kind of stuff. And that's where you feel freedom and you feel liberation. Hey, you want to gossip about me? Up to you. I'm not interested in being around people who gossip. Enjoy your life. Bye-bye. And that's freedom. But if you're holding on to this family member and you just want this person to like you and you don't feel comfortable unless they like you, then your mind's all bound up. You'd like to get free of all of that. Mm-hmm. More? Yep.
I think I didn't understand karma, or because I think in my mind it's wrong and right. Like you do more good things, you get good things coming back to you. But I think what I've been understanding here, what we're talking about is not, I think in my brain, especially the background I come from, it's in absolute terms. Like,
Yeah.
you do something, you bang this wall, you're going to get hurt kind of thing, or, what goes around comes around kind of thing. But I guess we can't escape that. We can't escape the fact that we're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
But comparing maybe, you said the guy that was, selling the mangoes, thinking his job is better than mine because maybe I have education. That's not necessarily true, because he might have more joy than me and more of a peaceful life. So I think I'm understanding, I think, that it's more this cause and effect
Yes.
that we all are subjected to. And you want to just maybe do more things that's going to result in better consequences, but that's not up to you either,
Mm-hmm.
So where's this whole merit thing from? And like, yeah, I don't know.
I think I've heard you say you're going to take the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course next month, right? That's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to learn the foundation. That's where I actually have a whole class on the natural law of karma, and I teach you the 4 types of karma, and I help you see it more clearly. But you are starting to see a little bit more. It's not right and wrong. It's not black and white. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's a sequence of events, and you actually can't even determine exactly the result of karma in any particular situation. The Buddha even talks about this. So it's not like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's not that. The Buddha says that if you try to determine the exact result of karma, it would lead to your madness or frustration. So, for example, if somebody said to me, "Hey, David, I'm thinking about cheating on my wife. What am I going to experience as a result of this?" Right? I can't say, "Well, you're going to experience this." It's not an absolute, right? I can say, well, the types of things that you're potentially going to experience are sexually transmitted diseases, arguments in your relationship, lack of trust, right? Lack of depletion of your resources and your money, blah, 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 blah. I can say all these different things, but exactly what they're going to experience, there's too many variables involved. You can't actually discern that. And the Buddha gives a good analogy on this. We were talking about it the other day at the restaurant. Like if you had a lump of salt and you put that lump of salt in a bowl of water, is the water drinkable? Like a big lump of salt, right? Practically the same size as the bowl. Is the water drinkable? No, the water's not drinkable. If you put that same lump of salt into a river, a fresh flowing river, is the water still drinkable? Yeah, it's still drinkable, right? So the lump of salt is exactly the same, right, in both situations. But whether it's in the bowl of water or the river determines whether or not it's actually still drinkable. Well, the water represents the wholesome karma that each individual person has done in their life. So if someone has very little wholesome karma and they produce a certain amount of unwholesome karma, it's going to affect them more significantly than somebody who's done lots of wholesome things in their life. That same lump of salt, the same exact thing, is going to affect this person over here much differently, much like the water, right? Because this person's done a lot of wholesome things. So you can't discern the exact result of karma, but we can say these are the things that are likely, or these are the potentials that will occur. Like the medic in the war, the likelihood is that this person's going to get injured themselves or potentially killed. Whether it actually happens or not, we can't say with 100% certainty. So there's a sequence of events that are going to occur here, that any decision you make is going to lead to a certain result, and you'd like to make a wise decision. But even in all your wise decisions, you're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. No matter what, no matter how enlightened you are, you will still experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction, because this is impermanence. So even as an enlightened being, you're going to lose things from time to time. Certain things are going to get destroyed. A tree is going to fall on your house. Just because you're enlightened, there's nothing mystical or magical that's protecting your house from that tree that's going to fall on your house. It's going to happen, right? Or you're going to get in a car accident potentially, or somebody bumps into your car in a parking lot. Your car was damaged. This is going to happen even as an enlightened being. But the difference is that you won't be upset. You won't be angry. You won't be frustrated. As an unenlightened being, you'll be angry and frustrated when these things are occurring. Now, in terms of the natural law of Gotama, you could park in a certain place that is more likely for you to get your car bumped into. And this is your Gotama from parking in an unwise situation and parking in a way that you would otherwise be unwise to park. So now you're more likely to get your car damaged, and that damage to your car is your unwholesome Gotama because you made an unwise decision, right? But also you could have an enlightened being who parks in a different position, and a perfectly nice position in their car could actually get damaged too, right? So sometimes when people hear you don't have any unwholesome Gotama by the time you get to enlightenment, they think everything's going your way, nothing's ever happening. No, you're still experiencing things. It's just that your mind's unaffected by it. And you're making wise decisions every single time, but you can still experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction.
So I think what's been happening is that I've been living in a little bowl of water, and and then getting very frustrated with the block of salt, getting angry with it, whether it's and there's been decisions I've made. I didn't know, it was just circumstantial. I thought I was doing, but then what it resulted in is that I think that body of water was growing and growing and growing. And then, so now some of that salt, I'm thinking the salt is reducing, but it's probably staying the same. Like my mom is still the same. She doesn't bug me as much. Like she just.
But she didn't bug you to begin with. It was your own craving that was causing that.
So now it's like these things happen. I'm like, okay, or whatever the case may be. But I think that's what's been happening, and I understand it a bit better now.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit freeing understanding. It's actually a lot of freedom, understanding that it's not the sin and this wrong and right, because in the past, if you have the basis of its sin, it's you just almost can't get rid of it, and you almost feel like there's something wrong with you and broken almost inside of you. But if that's not it is, if it's cause and effect, means I'm here because of a certain reason, but I can be somewhere different if I choose to, the likelihood of if I'm doing something different, the likelihood of it being different is going to be different. So just because my parents raised me and I was in a very hostile, aggressive environment, I don't need to repeat that. And yes, my kids will still struggle with whatever, but they won't maybe have the same consequences as me. They're a bit more protected from it.
What you're describing is the life of an unenlightened being. That because of the lack of wisdom of the natural laws, you've been going through life, experiencing all these things, not necessarily know why you're experiencing them or how to experience something different. Even though your mind aspires for something different, your mind didn't know how to do it, right? Because you just had a lack of wisdom. So remember the three poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. That's what it's like to live with craving, anger, and ignorance, is that you're just going to be motivated by cravings. And when you get them fulfilled, you'll be happy. When you don't get them fulfilled, you'll be angry and frustrated. You'll think it's the other people that are causing it. And then this ignorance, this lack of wisdom, you'll just keep making decisions unwisely, and you're staying stuck in this cycle. So now what you're doing in the last couple of weeks since you've been learning is you're now bringing some wisdom. And now with that wisdom, you're starting to learn about generosity, loving kindness, and all these other things that you're learning. And now more and more, when you start practicing these and you cultivate that in your mind and it's more readily accessible to you, you can slowly kind of steer the ship in a better direction, right? And that's what the Buddhist teachings are helping you to do. But you didn't have that light before, right? It's kind of like in the unenlightened state with that lack of wisdom. It's like walking in the forest and it's dark. There's no light. And what the Buddha's doing is he's providing you a light to be able to see the path, to be able to walk on. And now it's like, I can walk comfortably. Before I was kind of haphazardly going through life, apprehensive, not quite sure if I'm going to step on a roach or a tree or trip over a plant or something. And you're kind of in the forest in the dark, not knowing where to turn. And now the Buddha's giving you the light and he's saying, here's the path. This is the way to a peaceful life. So the more that you bring this wisdom in, things will just get easier and easier. But yeah, it sounds like you don't fully understand the natural law of karma yet. And that's fine, because the only time you'll fully understand it is when you're enlightened, right? Even when you're in the first, second, and third stage of enlightenment, an individual that hasn't fully awoken yet, they still have a lack of wisdom in their mind. So you're starting to kind of look more towards the natural law to be able to understand it. And when you take the foundations course, you'll understand it more from that course, because that's the real foundation. Mm-hmm. Okay, another one. Yep.
Hello. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to my question on someone invites me to a family event, and instead of saying no, I won't come, I would say, what did we say we were going to say? Like, if I can come and let you know, so you're not saying no straight away. But I can get over not giving a reason, like, an explanation, but I know they're going to come back and say, hey, what does that mean? A yes or a no, because I need to either count on you, for the food or not.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'll need to say no. Right?
No, you don't have to. If they say, hey, I need to know today whether or not to count you in for food or not. And you could say, well, today I haven't made any decision that I will be coming. So if you need to factor in the food, today I haven't made the decision to actually come. So if I were you, I wouldn't factor me in for food. And if later I change my mind and I am able to come, don't worry about the food. I'll figure something out on my side, right? Like, you take responsibility for it, right? So you don't have to use the word no.
But, sorry, wouldn't that be not clear? You know how, like, at the beginning, when we were talking about not doing business in weapon, not doing business in meat, blah, blah, blah. And then we said not be flattering, and there was another word, hindering or something like that.
Hinting.
I don't remember. Yeah. Which is like, is wiser to be clear.
Yeah.
So is there not a conflict?
It's clear. It's just not giving them what they want, which is they want a yes or a no. You're just not giving them what they want. It's clear. Hey, at this point, I'm not sure whether I'm able to come or not. I will check and let you know. It's clear. It's just that they want an answer right now, yes or no.
But if I know it's a no.
The same thing. Like I said, if you say no, you're welcome to say no. Do it if you like. But what you're going to see is their mind's going to get upset in some situations because they have craving. You're going to lose relationships, and it's going to strain your relationships. That's why I teach this. You'll see that it actually works much better to do the things that I'm sharing. And while their mind needs to adjust to this way of you communicating, eventually they will adjust and they will see that this is how you communicate. They might try to put pressure on you and they want what they want, which is a yes or a no, but you don't have to give in to that. You can choose to communicate in the way that you're communicating. It's clear. It's very clear, but it's just not what they want in that situation.
Okay.
And the more you do it and the more you see it works, you'll see, because there's a gentleman, this gentleman has left, but it was actually a person sitting right here, and he happened to have been from Germany as well. And he was laughing and he thought what I was teaching was like really off base. And he thought like, there's no way he would ever do something like this. And in the class, he was asking me a lot of questions, but then like 6 months later, he contacted me. He's like, David, I'm so pleased that I learned that from you because I've been using it in the last couple of weeks in multiple situations and it's working like wonderful. Where in the class, he has had some of the same questions as you, where he was just like, it doesn't seem clear. It seems wishy-washy. It seems like I'm not giving them what they want and a lot of this stuff. But then when he actually implemented it, he saw it worked. he was like, thank goodness I learned it. So remember, there's the learning part, there's the reflection part, which is what you're doing now, but then there's the practice part. And that's where you'll see the truth and acquire the wisdom to know, aha, this works.
I think that when I implement it, it's going to be very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to make me think that I'm doing wrong, that I'm doing unwholesome things,
Well, that's where you need to see true reality. Yeah. Somebody can say you're doing something rude or unwholesome or whatever. They can say that all they like, but you need to be able to see true reality, right? The only reason why something would be quote unquote hard for you is because the mind lacks wisdom and because it has cravings. So the harder something is, the mind's actually struggling to let go of its cravings and to cultivate its wisdom. So yeah, the things that I teach you, it's not going to just be so easy. Like sometimes when we talk about getting to enlightenment, people think it's like rainbow butterflies and, like things like this, like puffy clouds, that's not what it is. You're in there doing some work to do things very differently than you used to do. Because remember, there's this way that an unenlightened being functions, but then there's the way that an enlightened being functions. And this is that better way of life that the Buddha is describing. And going from unenlightened to enlightened to practice this better way of life, there's some real deep inner work that you've got to do. And the mind's in there struggling. And it's almost like a war with your mind. But that's where the benefit is. That's where the growth and the development is. So go through that. Don't turn away from it. The Buddha calls it, he says, don't shrink back from the struggle, right? Because if you shrink back from the struggle, whenever your mind's struggling, it's because you lack wisdom and there's certain cravings in your mind. Well, if you shrink back from that struggle, you're going to just ensure that that struggle continues because now you never cultivated the wisdom and you didn't let go of those cravings. Whereas if you do what the Buddha teaches and what I teach, which is turn around and walk towards the struggle, now you get the opportunity to cultivate the wisdom and let go of those cravings. So now in the future, when that same situation happens, you can handle it with ease. But if you shrink back from the struggle, you're just ensuring it's going to happen again, and it's going to keep repeating. So yeah, this path, it's a struggle. It's a challenge, but it's the last struggle of all struggles. Once you go through this struggle, your mind will be completely transformed and you'll know the truth of what's wise and what's unwise. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Another one? Yeah. You guys are trying to make me past 11. You're like, he said we were going to be done by 11. We're not going to be done by 11. Go ahead. You're fine. You're fine. I have all day. Yeah. Oh, we have all day. I'm just messing with you guys. You guys are the question class.
My daughter was asking me if she have to invite the whole family when she is marrying.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to her. In my opinion, it is your decision.
Perfect.
If you want to have the whole family, that you mind that you can think your mind is in peace with all people, but you did not feel peace on your own wedding because of we have some people in the family you did not want to invite. It is your decision.
Perfect.
And maybe when you did not invite me, you were my daughter and you will be my daughter. And she said, but when my stepdaughter, my ex stepdaughter, did not invite her to every parties, yeah, but she invited me and his father, and I feel something when she did not invite my daughter, but now, today, I know it is a craving and an attachment to my daughter that my stepdaughter did not invite her.
Yeah.
And I said to my daughter, when you do the same like her, then that would never be it would never end. you can overcome this.
Yeah.
Or you can decide.
Sure. So the advice that I would give her is the same thing. I would just add one little caveat is yes, daughter, it's up to you. Whatever you'd like to do, you invite whoever you think you'd like to invite. But don't not invite stepdaughter just because she didn't invite you. You don't have to do that. If you would like to invite her, but don't not invite her just because she didn't invite you, because that's just her own mind's craving and ill will towards her, because your daughter might have experienced some painful feelings when she wasn't invited. And she's like, I'm going to get back at her and I'm not going to invite her to my wedding so she can experience those same painful feelings. That's unwise. So I would counsel your daughter that, hey, if you don't invite her, that's fine. That's your decision. But don't do that just because she didn't invite you. That would be unwise. Because like you said, it's just going to keep going. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll just end class in our course by thanking you guys for a week of learning and growing and developing. And thank you so much for being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. And at the same time, I'd like to let you know that there's continued support for you guys. You guys can continue to learn, grow, and develop on this path. If you'd like, there's opportunity for you to attend weekly classes, either in person or online. And attend these in-depth learning opportunities as needed. This is something that I suggest for you to do on a regular basis. I suggest you guys read this first book. If you haven't already read this first book, you might need to read it multiple times. I've had some students that have been studying with me many years, and they said they read it 8, 10, 12 times, and they're still learning from it. So I definitely encourage you to do that. Just read 10, 20 minutes a day. This is going to kind of help you to take little bites. Whereas if you sit down and you try to read for 2 hours or 3 hours, it's a lot of information. And now you need to independently verify it. And it's going to be very challenging for you. So I just suggest you read little by little each day. You're going to need to practice generosity frequently each day. Be practicing some amount of generosity. The Buddha teaches this as a daily practice because it trains your mind to let go. Because remember, the underlying cause of your discontentedness is the mind holding on and craving permanence. So you need to train it to let go. That's why the Buddha teaches generosity. So you'd like to practice that daily. Then you're going to need to be improving your moral conduct daily. This is part of harmonious relationships, right? You're going to need to improve that harsh speech and speak more gentle. You're going to need to learn to speak with a mind of loving kindness and all these other things that I've been teaching you throughout this week. So you're going to need to be tweaking your moral conduct continuously. In the relationships that you're closest in, those will be the most difficult. Parents, siblings, life partner, children, people like this, those are the most challenging relationships. So you're going to really need to pay attention to those. And then you're going to need to do your meditation on a daily basis. This is something that you'd like to be doing each day. Understanding to build up to 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes. And it can take you 6 months, a year, even 2 years to gradually build up to that. And seek guidance as you need help. You can seek guidance by asking a question in a live class like this. You can post on our Facebook group. You can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance, whether it's here in person or whether it's online. I can help you, because it's one thing learning in a class, but it's a whole other thing relating it to your day-to-day situations. So feel free to reach out and get help in any of those kinds of ways. These are all the options that you can use for continued learning. There's books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, quizzes, all these things. There's in-person and online classes, courses, and retreats. There's 2 ongoing programs. The group learning program is 7 months. I go chapter by chapter in this book each Sunday. That's a great place for people to really get started. The Pali Canon and English Study Group goes through volumes 2 through 13 over a 1.5 year period. Oftentimes people make sure they have a really nice foundation before they move into that. So these are 2 ongoing programs for you. Then, as I mentioned, there's personal guidance that you can receive. And there's our Facebook group. And all this is available to you at no cost. So if you like help to be able to understand how to live this better way of life, there's help for you. So I'll just end by once again thanking you not only for attending the class, but thank you for any support that you've given me. I know some of you guys have maybe taken me out for food, or maybe you've taken out some trash, or you've cleaned a toilet, or maybe you've put some money into the box for us to pay for electric and water. Whatever you guys have done, just understand I'm very appreciative of that, but I never have any expectation that you will support what I'm doing. I'm here to support you either way, but I always like to just take a moment to thank you for your support, because it does allow me to help share these teachings with you and countless other people. So thank you so much, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class, okay? All right. Take care.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.